Hey there, this is Alex Kluge from Toronto Home Experts, and I'm here to dive into the June 2021 Toronto real estate market update. So before we dive into the numbers, just want to talk to you a little bit about what's happening in the marketplace today. So we're comparing numbers from June 2021 to June 2020. So just as June 2020, for context, really when we're comparing against those 2 months, we were exiting the lockdown in June 2020. So really there was all this like pent up demand for real estate. So a lot of the numbers that we're looking at when we're comparing from a volume and sales perspective, take that into a frame of mind when we're comparing against the June 2021 market. So there's that to consider. Also, the other thing too is what I've noticed certainly is that, and this goes to real estate, but it actually goes with a lot of different industries, is that really the pandemic has actually pulled forward a lot of the demand. What does that mean? Well, I think really the pandemic allowed people, specifically when it comes to real estate, to maybe rethink about their housing plan. So maybe they decided to move into something a little bit larger sooner than they would have normally, or maybe they decided to downsize sooner than they would normally would have. So that's pulling a lot of the demand that would have been present perhaps a year, 2, or 3 from now. So really what we saw in Q1 was a huge spike sales and volume, and Q2, which is what we just finished, was a very, very solid month, or sorry, quarter, and June was a very solid month. And when we compare to previous months, it's actually an excellent, excellent record of June. So again, just take that in frame of mind when we're looking at the numbers, because I'm going to compare June 2020 to June 2021, and that'll help understand and contextualize a little bit about the numbers that we're going in. Okay, so sales volume is up from June 2020 to June 2021. Again, not surprising, because I remember last June, that's really when I would say sales started opening up more in earnest after the lockdown. We were essentially locked down for most of May, and so the sales was actually down considerably. So the fact that we're up 28% is pretty remarkable from last year. Now, when we compare it to May 2021, last month, we're actually down slightly, and this is normal. So usually when you talk about a normal real estate cycle, sales activity peaks in April, plateaus in May, and comes down June a little bit, flat lines July and August, and the fall market goes up again. So that's usually what happens. So we saw this, or we're seeing this right now in June, is that we're seeing a little bit of a dip when it comes to sales volume, and that's very cyclical and normal in a traditional real estate market. Which, granted, we haven't really been in a traditional real estate market because of the pandemic, and that we've really seen a high pace of sales volume and activity basically since June or July of last year. So it's been pretty remarkable to see. Okay, so active listings, when we compare from last June to this June, it's not surprising it's down, because what happened was last spring there was a lot of properties didn't sell. So people took their properties off the market and then came back on the market once things started up in June. So that's unsurprising that we have sales volume, or the numbers down close by 12%. And actually it's down a little bit from where we were in May. So again, pretty normal from a cyclical standpoint in a real estate market, which I think we're now getting back into. So I think what we're going to see is a very typical summer, which is a little bit of a lull in the market. I'll get to that shortly. And then, we see that rise in demand and sales activity again resume in September once, kids are back in school and everyone's done from their summer holidays. So new listings. So new listings were basically flat from where we were last year. And again, new listings was down a little bit from where we were in May of last month. So what does that really mean? Basically, it shows that actually this is a very healthy real estate market. It's still very much a seller's market. And there's been, I would say some press out there that suggests that the all because we've got average prices down from last month, sales volume down, and sales activity or new listing activity down from last month, that the market is slowing down. And I can see it too, just being working with buyers and sellers. The sales activity, like in terms of number of viewings, number of offers, and all that, has certainly decreased from what I would say March, April were probably the peak months when it comes to that. May was also really, really solid, but June is a little bit slowing down in that regard. And why is that? Well, if we look back at what I said earlier, like the pandemic has really pulled forward some of that demand. I think there's a little bit of buyer fatigue out there. Like, vaccination rates are moving ahead very quickly in Toronto and in Canada, for that matter. So a lot of people are like, well, it's nice outside. It's the summer here. I haven't taken a holiday in a long time. Let's get out of Toronto and let's go somewhere in Canada. So we're seeing more people away. So that takes away demand from buying real estate. And I think we're going to see a little bit of that pause or lull, if you want to call it, this summer. I think this is going to be very normal. But when we go back to September, we're still going to see a healthy real estate market in terms of activity, because I think that's when we'll see a lot of people moving back into Toronto for employment purposes or for studying. So that's going to help actually propel the market forward. So that's my prediction. I know we're not talking about predictions here, but I thought it would just give you some context into why we're seeing the numbers we are today and help them explain what's happening in the next few months. Okay, so average price. If you've watched any of the past videos, know that we have had a remarkable run up in prices, since last year. And again, not surprising that we're up over 17%. Does that mean that your house or your condo has gone up by 17%? No, it does not. This is a basket of houses and condos that have sold within this month. So you have to take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. But yes, absolutely, prices are up from last June. There's no question about that. Again, it depends on where you are in the city, what type of property you have. If it's a detached, semi-detached townhouse or condo, all those are appreciating at a slightly different rate. And so if you have questions about that or you want to know more information about your scenario, please get in touch with us. But going back to pricing, what's interesting is average price from last month to this month actually went down a little bit. It was down by 1.7%. Again, nothing to be alarmed for, and this is very normal. If you look at the last 20 June to May comparisons over the last 20 years, you're going to see almost all of them, I think all except for 3 of those months, had a decline in average price from June to May. So not surprising that we're seeing that, because that's what I would call a normal cycle. We see prices run up and then slight dip when it comes to the summer months, which is what we're seeing in June. What is interesting though, condos are the only average price to have increased from last month to this month. That doesn't surprise me at all from what I'm seeing. They went up by 0.2%, which again is not significant, but it's showing that there's strength that's coming to the condo market. I think there was certainly condos are more affected due to the pandemic, and that's really bottomed out, I would say, in November last year, and now May we saw a nice run up, and then actually even then another month we saw another increase from last month. So good sign for the condo market that it's back, and I think we're going to see that moving forward as we get into the fall as well. Okay, so days on market, unsurprisingly, we're down. Days on market 13 is incredibly low, and something that I think bears fruit to the fact that we're in a very active seller's market, and that's something that we should not forget, despite some of the headlines we might be seeing online and in media outlets across Canada. So that's a good sign. Months of inventory, and also another great stat, it's down to 1.2% from for the month of June. So compare that to June of 2020. Like, just for context, like a buyer's or a balanced market is around 4 months of inventory. A buyer's market is around 6. The fact that we're like in the low ones is absolutely amazing. So what does that say? Shows that there's not enough supply. The supply is still an issue and will continue to be an issue until we start seeing months of inventory rise. That's probably when we're going to see a slowdown in the appreciation rate for Toronto or GTA properties. But until we see those numbers creep up to like +3, we're going to still see a rapid rate of increase for pricing in the GTA. So one thing that was also interesting, I know I'm jumping back and forth, but if we look at where average prices were for from Q1 to Q2, they've basically been pretty much flat. So, we look at March prices to where they are today, they're about the same. So that shows that we had a nice run up, sort of the market's taking a little bit of a breather when it comes to price appreciation. But anyways, good news that we haven't seen any declines, and I do not expect that based on some of the fundamentals that we're seeing here, such as months of inventory, which is also a good indicator to draw from. So again, thank you so much for tuning into this month's video. Hope you enjoyed it. Please follow us on social media. We've got some amazing campaigns that we're in contests that we're running on Instagram, so be sure to follow us there as well. And any questions when pertaining to how this impacts you, whether you're looking to get into the market, whether you're looking to upsize or downsize, please reach out. We're happy to help and answer any questions you might have. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next month.